You may not be masculine, but you also aren't feminine. Instead, you are weird and artificial. You are manufactured and lifeless. You are unearthly and eerie. You are like some kind of human deep fake. That's what you are. You are a man deprived of all the best qualities.
Okay, in today's video, we're gonna listen to Matt Walsh. Serious, brutal, honest response to Dylan Mulvaney. If you don't know who Dylan Mulvaney is, he's a man posing as a woman, getting a lot of attractions online, getting big deals, and making a lot of money. So Matt Walsh had something to say. Now, some people took an issue with this. I'm going to listen carefully to the entire speech and also to his response, and I'll save my thought and perspective till the end. Before we get into this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, like and subscribe to the page, click the bell icon for more. Are you ready for this? Let's now get into the heart of the message.
And I wanted to go on record to say that this might be the hottest I've ever looked and will ever look in my lifetime. And I'm making this video so that in thousands of years, there will be evidence. Is it the dress? It could be the dress. Is it the makeup? Or is it the hair? Because I think it's the extensions. And when I have extensions in, I don't know my name. I don't know where I live. I just know that I love these. And I know that I look like I could steal a husband, but I want to promise you, look me in the eyes. I want to promise you that I would never do that to you. Okay, I am a girl's girl. And I love ya. Woo! But seriously, this is good, right? Okay.
Dylan, if that is the most attractive you will ever look, then I don't even want to imagine what you'll look like when you're at your ugliest. You do not pass as an attractive woman or as a woman at all, even with 50 pounds of makeup and plastic surgery and clever lighting tricks. Even then, you still cannot escape what you really are and what you will always be. You have successfully shed whatever parts of you were masculine, perhaps, at least on the surface. Nobody would ever describe you as masculine or manly, so you've got that going. But your femininity quotient has not increased at a rate commensurate with the loss of your masculinity. You may not be masculine, but you also aren't feminine. Instead, you are weird and artificial. You are manufactured and lifeless. You are unearthly and eerie. You are like some kind of human deep fake. That's what you are. You are a man deprived of all the best qualities of men, but without any of the best qualities of women. Even your personality is contrived. Everything about you is fake. Nothing about you rings true. Nobody buys the act. You'll never be accepted as a woman by anyone. Never by anyone. Even the people who pretend to accept you as a woman are only pretending because they're afraid of being lectured if they don't, or because they want to use you as a platform to virtue signal. But everyone who looks at you will see something pitiable and bizarre, something utterly unfeminine in every way. You will never be able to actually have the identity that you're trying to appropriate, nor will you ever be able to fully escape the identity that you're fleeing. The best you can hope for is some kind of limbo, the worst of all worlds. And yet, even in that limbo state, you will still be a man. Just not one that any of us can respect or take seriously. But other than that, champ, you're doing great.
Yeah. Wow. That was just brutally honest. Now, I wouldn't say I have an issue with this. I will say this is Matt Walsh at his best. Like, this is Matt Walsh. If you've been following Matt Walsh, this shouldn't shock you. This shouldn't shock you. He does this in his podcast, and if anybody is new to Matt Walsh content, you haven't been paying attention because he speaks kind of like that about a lot of things. So, first of all, he's very much entitled to his opinion. I definitely wouldn't say it this way, but I'm not going to say he's wrong for saying it either. Okay, so there were some people who took an issue with this. A number of YouTubers as well mentioned how they didn't agree with what Matt Walsh said and everything. So I'm going to let you hear their response and also Matt Walsh, and we're gonna go from there.
It wasn't that good.
Well,
He was just being mean.
I was gonna say, like, what he is saying is actually genuinely, like, really mean. Parts of
Yeah.
the whole thing is true. Like, it's not like it's untrue. It's not like Dylan Mulvaney is a male, and he will always be a male. And no matter how much makeup or face feminization or whatever, you'll always be a male. This is like a reality. I have a lot of contempt for these people. Like, a lot of contempt.
You're talking about like woman face people.
Yeah.
You're not talking about Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I sometimes have contempt for Matt, but less often than I have contempt for Dylan Mulvaney. I get where he's coming from, because like I have so much contempt for these people, and the more that this drags on, and the more that they denigrate females, the more that anybody denigrates females, the more angry I get, and the more contempt I have for people who participate in that, in whatever form that comes in. I don't know if there's a necessity or a point in just being like mean.
Here's my take on it is and I, obviously I'm much softer generally, but like there's nothing he said that isn't true, but it accomplishes nothing.
Yeah.
All it does,
brutal.
it's just so mean that like it won't resonate and it won't change minds.
And I will absolutely say, yeah, it's mean. Yeah, Matt Walsh is being mean. I mean, come on. Matt Walsh insults Dylan Mulvaney as eerie, weird, and bizarre. You can get the point across without saying that.
The major divide on this video is whether or not the language was a little too harsh towards Dylan. You guys know me. You watch my show. You know how I talk about these issues. I am on the side of this being too harsh, and I know there are many who will disagree with me. But to me, there is no need for vitriol.
I mean, do you reckon he's into her? It sort of does look like the sort of thing somebody would say that when they're slightly obsessed with somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, factually, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Is he?
No.
Factually.
Yeah. I don't look. If your job is to win hearts and minds, I don't think this is the best way of doing it.
What if it's your job to get clicks online?
Again, but do clicks lead to changing of opinion?
No. I don't think he's trying to change anyone's opinion.
What do you think he's trying to do then?
He's trying to make people on his side feel like he's done something cool and said something that they think, I think.
Do you think that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's not trying to change Dylan Mulvaney's mind, is he?
Yeah, I completely agree. I just look at that and just go, even people on his own side were like, hold on a bit, mate.
Before Matt Walsh gave his final take on that, actually, I watched the entire live stream when Matt Walsh gave this response to Dylan Mulvaney. I didn't even feel like there was something wrong with what he was saying, because I felt like this is actually true. And Matt Walsh speaks that way. And again, this is the thing, though, because there are some cases where you're gonna have to go head first at the matter. There's a point where you can no longer sugarcoat your language when you're dealing with an ideology that is so pervasive and rebellious and stubborn and very effective upon the minds of the youth. So I can understand Matt Walsh's position. First of all, I do understand it. There's times in when you study the Bible, or even when I'm preaching, okay, I put on a new facade. It depends on the spirit of the message, and depending on the audience that I'm addressing as well. I can be like, it can look like I'm angry, but that's not really anger. But there's some people you will never get through with kindness and gentleness and meekness. Sometimes a sharp sword is better than a kitchen knife, Some of the stuff you can't keep buttering the bread anymore. Sometimes you do need to cut it and go for the head. I think that's what Matt Walsh was doing here. He just had enough of the nonsense, and we can talk about the reasons why he felt that way and so on, and call out why we had an issue with that. But nevertheless, that's his perspective and opinion. I don't think he's wrong, because the ideology is pretty sick if you think about it. Like, and the effectiveness of it is very sick. This is what's destroying our culture. I think we gotta start asking questions. Are we gonna keep playing games with this thing? We don't need to kill anybody, but I think we need to make a very bold and strong position about where we stand when it comes to this stuff. Stop playing games. Even in the gospel, we don't need to be playing games. And there's time in scripture, the man of God's got to be firm and strong, to deal with certain evil. Like when you're addressing evil, you can't play with it. There's a time where you apply wisdom. There's a time you apply kindness. But there's time you need some boldness, some brutal honesty. There's a time you're going to have to grab a sword, man, and cut off Goliath's head. Matt Walsh is being Matt Walsh. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so that was Tim Pool, Jeremy from the YouTube channel The Quartering, Sydney Watson, Amala Ekpanobi from PragerU, and the guys from the podcast Trigonometry. Now, one thing I want to be clear about here is that I'm not mad at any of these people. There are no hard feelings. We can disagree and all that. It's fine. I could have done without the snideness and the lame cheap shot from the Trigonometry guys at the end, especially in the video where they're supposed to be lecturing me about the value of taking the high road. Okay, when you're going to do that, you can't start the video by insulting me. But we'll leave that to the side for now. Instead, all I'd like to do is address the overarching criticism one last time. First, you'll notice the connecting thread. Okay, they all agree that I'm right, that what I said is factually correct, but they think that it goes too far by saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Mulvaney's the one running around like some cartoon of a woman, passing out tampons in the women's room and meeting with the president to defend the mutilation of children, but I went too far. Well, see, this is where we differ. Because in the culture war, I don't think it's possible to go too far by speaking truth. The truth is the truth. It is what it is. It's the reality. Are we going to defend it or are we going to conceal it? Are we going to embrace it or are we going to hide from it? You can't have it both ways.
True.
When it comes to gender ideology, the truth is ugly. It is brutal and harsh and disgusting. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. I didn't make it that way. I didn't create the ugliness. I'm merely pointing to it and saying, look at this. Look at it for what it is. But you would rather that I soften the blow a little bit, that I dress the truth up to make it prettier, more palatable. You want me to lie to protect the feelings of our enemies. And make no mistake, Dylan Mulvaney is our enemy. He is an open, visible, active, and passionate advocate for the abuse of children, the war on fundamental truth, and the destruction of human society as we know it.
It's true.
Dylan Mulvaney is our enemy. He is an open, visible, active, and passionate advocate for the abuse of children, the war on fundamental truth, and the destruction of human society as we know it. You wish to defeat this man in a manner that will not make him feel bad about himself, but I'm here to tell you that you are delusional.
Yeah.
I'm not going to protect your feelings any more than I'll protect his. You are deluding yourself. We got into this position in our culture precisely by valuing politeness over truth. We got here by doing exactly as you would have me continue doing, and what you blame me for not doing. We got here by refusing to speak the plain truth and by allowing the anti-truth brigade to emotionally blackmail us into silence. They use their own mental fragility as a cudgel to beat us into submission. That's the threat, right? And we let them get away with it. Or you do anyway. I won't. Second, you say that I'm not going to convince the other side with this kind of rhetoric. But here's what you have to understand. This is very important. Convincing the other side is not my primary objective. This is the core difference between you and me. I'm not looking to reach an understanding with these people. I'm not interested in compromise and dialogue. For those who castrate children and attack the very concept of truth and erode the foundations of human civilization, my goal is to defeat and humiliate and demoralize them. Okay, I want to destroy everything they stand for. The other side is not interested in compromise.
True.
They want nothing less than your unconditional surrender. We have to meet them with that same energy or we will lose or continue losing. And by the way, this is also a good strategy because it rallies people to our side. It emboldens the troops. It lets people know that it's okay to speak up and to speak truthfully. You know, it's often said that that you shouldn't preach to the choir. That's basically what they were saying at the end of that clip there. Just pandering. He's pandering to his own audience. This is a message that's meant for his own audience. Well, God forbid. God forbid I speak to my own audience on my podcast.
That's right. You're supposed to.
No. Preaching to the choir is a good thing. We need to do more of it. Because if the choir is demoralized and scared and cowering in silence, then you damn well better preach to them. What kind of congregation can you hope to have when even the choir is too afraid to sing? In our choir, those who agree with us, the many millions of them, have been cowed into submission. They are nervous. They are timid, like you. And then you come along and say that we should ignore them and instead tailor our message for a group that hates us and will hate us no matter what we say or do?
Mercy.
This is not just morally wrong, it's also terrible strategy. Okay? It is a dumb strategy.
It is.
In fact, it's exactly what the churches have done for decades. And it's why most of them are dying. They water down their preaching to appeal to the crowd, a crowd that isn't interested in the message, no matter how softly it's peddled. And while at best, because they did that, they bore to death and at worst actively alienate the very people who are actually sitting in the pews. So that's what the churches do. The people sitting in the pews who come to hear it, and then they give their preaching, which is designed to appeal to people who are outside the building and not even sitting there. But the people that are outside the building, they don't come in to hear any more of it. Instead, the people that were actually sitting there get up and leave.
Facts.
Conservatism has made the same mistake. And at what point do we learn the lessons that our own recent history seeks to teach us? Now, you say that we can't win hearts and minds by being nice.
Yeah.
Because, by the way, I'm not saying that we're only preaching to the choir. That's not it. We also do want to convince people. But guess what? You don't convince people by being nice. You don't.
True.
At least not on a cultural level. I mean, where did you get this idea? Where did you arrive at this conclusion? That the way to win the culture is by being nice. Is that how the left won the culture? Have you been paying attention at all? They have seized hold of our society, indoctrinating entire generations, and they didn't do it with niceness. They didn't win these flies with honey.
Nope.
They did it by being bold and aggressive and by making their opposition's arguments seem not only wrong, but utterly horrific and insane. That's how they did it. See, it turns out that the tone of your argument is often more important than the substance of it. And the tone that actually wins the day on a cultural level is the one that is unwavering and which paints the opposition as so repulsive that you shouldn't even take their position into consideration.
Facts.
Now,
He's not
the only
lying.
difference is that they do that to us dishonestly, right?
True.
They make the truth seem insane. But what they're peddling actually is insane. We have allowed them to make the truth seem crazier than actual craziness.
It's crazy.
Okay? We take their ideas more seriously than they take ours, but their ideas are insane lunacy. And we lend them more legitimacy than they will lend to us when we are speaking the truth and they are babbling nonsense. You think this is a good strategy? What is the evidence that this strategy works?
It doesn't work.
We moderate our tone. We seek to kill them with kindness, while they recruit legions by doing exactly the opposite. Again, I ask you, when will you learn? Now, finally, if you sense anger in the words that I use when discussing this topic, you're right. That is one crime I will confess to. I am angry.
Yeah.
When I look at what these people have done to our country, the devastation they have wrought on a generation of children and adults alike, the bleakness and ugliness of their worldview, the moral and intellectual chaos they leave in their wake, yes, I get very angry. And when I consider that my own children must inherit this culture, that Dylan Mulvaney and his ilk will prey upon my children and try to turn my own sons and daughters into mutilated, mutant, self-loathing, hollow, twisted shells, just like themselves.
Crazy.
Well, my anger then turns into more of a boiling rage. And I know that I will do whatever is necessary.
Yeah.
And I will speak whatever truths are necessary to protect my kids from this hellish, God-forsaken madness. Now, I have personally heard from many parents, more than I can count, who tell me versions of the same horror story. A beautiful and innocent kid, one day, seemingly out of nowhere, gets sucked into the gender cult and is devoured by it.
Mm-hmm.
The child they held as a baby and raised and gave their lives to and loved and still love becomes suddenly unrecognizable. All of their innocence and light and beauty just drained out of them, replaced by this self-cannibalizing madness. For a parent, to see this happen to a child, it is a fate worse than death. I would rather be dead than have that happen to my kids.
Mercy.
See, the thing that I most despise about Dylan Mulvaney is that he is part of a movement which actively seeks to turn my children into Dylan Mulvaney. That's why I'm entitled to my anger.
Yeah.
And to whatever language I use to convey it. I will say whatever I want to say, and I will be justified in saying it, because these people are after my kids.
Yeah.
And yours.
Yeah.
And everyone else's.
Exactly.
And you're worried that I'm being a little rude? Well, you see, when it comes to my children, the children that I cherish more than my own life, if you think mean words go too far, then you would be very shocked to hear how far I would really go to protect them. Trust me, words are the least of it. So yes, my words reflect anger because I am angry.
Yeah.
But the problem is not that I'm angry. The problem is that you aren't nearly angry enough. And that is why the Be Nice conservatives are finally, today, canceled.
That was powerful. When he made the comparison to the church and preaching to the choir, he got me over there because that's exactly true. I don't need to add to his words. This video is long enough. I'm just going to read my verse. I mean, take it however you want. I will say this. You don't want to use anger for every situation, but you got to know what are you addressing. There's a time to be bold and stern and firm about your position. But I've also learned you don't just use logic, use scripture, especially if you're dealing with something that is spiritual. That's why I use scripture. And that's why people sometimes say, wait, why you always use the Bible? I said, what am I supposed to use? My thoughts? Because that's what gets people in trouble. If you're going to cancel me, you're going to cancel me because I've shared the word of God, not because I've given you my opinion, although I do have one, but I don't want that to precede God's words. I tend to share that with other people. But I'm going to say this, man. People can take this conversation or what he said here however they want. I'll leave you to come up with your own conclusion. I've already made my mind. I agree more with Matt Walsh than I disagree with him. Let's just put it that way. And I'm one of those guys who's most likely I like to speak very nice, very calm. But there comes a point though, you're just gonna have to turn up the heat. Your tone, your enthusiasm, your spirit, your attitude means everything. And I've learned this in our message. I've learned this when I preach. It's more than just how great the message is. A lot of it has to do with you the way you present it. There must be love, gentleness, and meekness and kindness in your approach, but at the same time, there is a need for boldness and firmness and truthfulness and straight dagger, because there are some hearts you will never reach. There are some changes that will never be made unless you take a different attitude or a different approach. Now, look at this. Whosoever therefore shall be ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him also shall the Son of Man be ashamed when he cometh in the glory of his Father with his holy angels. So this is where I make my stand as well. You know, I wouldn't say I'll do it exactly as Matt Walsh did, but I don't know how Matt Walsh felt when he made and said the things he said, but he's very much entitled to it. And he owned it, and he explains his position very clearly. I don't have an issue with that. And I think what he said here about the church, sometimes we, especially Christians, in our being nice, this is how the world becomes so evil. In our being nice, we fail to attack the wickedness and the evil. We fail to put the dagger straight to the heart and then multiply it all over the place. And here we are today not knowing what to do with it. It's knocking at our doors. You know, we got churchmen supporting this stuff. We have drag queens in churches now. Yeah, that's happened because you are being nice. You are being smooth. You are not doing what God told us to do. Shame on us. Matt Walsh is on point. Say what you want to say. He's on point. So share your thought and perspective below. Comment. Let me know what you think about this reaction video. Do you agree or disagree with Matt Walsh? Would you approach this matter differently? Where do you take your stand? I would like to hear from you. Until next time, and as always, remember to look unto Jesus and to live by faith. Have a good one.